I'm the newest end. Ladies and gentlemen, they call me Uncle Kage. I don't know why. Those of you who have no idea what you're doing in the audience, I'm going to explain to you. I basically am a dirty old drunk who gets up here and just makes noises with his face and keeps drinking this until he throws up on himself and falls over.
You should really come to Scotland.
That's a national sport. That fine, handsome gentleman with the sexy accent standing to my right, that's Mr. Fox of War. You've all heard of him. I'm not sure how we started doing this. I think that, Black Crash or concert or something? How did we start doing this?
I think my concert ran a wee bit over time than what it should have done.
That's it, and I got busy, so I just started.
Yeah, you just started while I was still there.
And it was like, dude, this is kind of working out.
Yep.
So we decided we would do this again a couple times, and it does seem to be working. I'm going to move this chair back a little so I don't like it. Yeah, I got room. So, this is indeed some of you who went to XIII might have seen me spill the wine on stage. Not going to happen this time. So, has anybody out there never seen something like this before? Okay, in the dark, there's this shadows of hands going, I can't see you. All right, never mind.
We'll never know.
Basically, pretty much, I start telling the news stories at Ephricon, which was just 3 weeks ago. So if you were at Ephricon, I'm sorry, it's pretty much going to be the same stories. There really is not much that could happen to me in 3 weeks, thank God. So I hope you're not disappointed. Also, if you're videotaping this, that's all well and good, but kindly don't put it up on YouTube. You know, there's people out there that, yeah, well, they'll see the punchline coming, and that would get me very, very upset with you. And you don't want me to get upset with you now, do you? It's the music. It does it to me. So many of you may know that up until recently, I was a resident of the great state of Pennsylvania, and I now live a little bit further south. I moved to North Carolina, Research Triangle area. Thank you, one person in the audience. That was very kind of you. Pretty close to it, yeah. The area that I'm in, as a matter of fact, is the area where the toothbrush was invented. Anywhere else, it would have been called a teeth brush. Yeah, I live there, I'm telling you. It's been a year since I've been living there now, and already some adventures have come my way, sadly. Three of you who follow my Twitter twat on the line there, you'll sometimes see, I'll send a little tweet out that says something like, I like getting news stories to tell, but I don't like the getting of news stories to tell, if you know what I mean. For example, I moved in to this wonderful, wonderful condominium on a lake. It's gorgeous, very, very idyllic and pretty and everything. And I moved in the summertime and was having a grand old time in my brand new condo, and it got into fall and was gorgeous. Looked outside, all that wonderful foliage out there, and we started to get into October, and I started to realize, it's getting a little chilly out there. It's going down to at least 68 degrees. That's going to be terribly cold. So I thought it's time to turn on the heat. So I clicked on the old heat, and well, I noticed after a while it really wasn't getting very warm. And they got this air coming out of the ceiling, put my hand up, and it was cold coming out. I said, well, North Carolina, they like their air conditioning down here so much that they just can't stop. Well, that wasn't it. I asked the neighbor, does she have heat? So I thought, okay, I got a home warranty. See, I'm smart. I'm a smart homeowner. I bought a home warranty. So I called up the home warranty company and said, okay, guess what? My heat don't work. Send somebody out. And then I went to work and waited. 3-4 days went by. It was starting to get colder. So I called up the home warranty company and said, excuse me, I was kind of hoping somebody would come out and fix my heat. And they said, didn't he come out? I said, well, if he had, I don't think I'd be calling you right now asking about it, now would I? I mean, let's dissect this little question that we've got going on here. Did he not come out? Yes, he did. Oh, why am I calling? Oh, silly me. How about you actually send him out? I mean, like, really send him out so he can fix my goddamn heat, all right? So, they said, all right, we will. And I waited another couple days. I called them back. And I said, I still don't have any heat. And they said, didn't he come out? I said, we played this game before. I have an idea. Suppose you send him out to fix my heat, and in return, I will not crawl through this telephone line and eat your tonsils. I actually said that. I remember saying that.
It's going up on YouTube.
It's ready? Yeah. No YouTubing, thank you. Anyway. I gotta catch up. There's 3 bottles here I need to go through. Well, having felt them that way that very evening, there's a knock on my door. And I open the door, and there's old Smiling Joe. Smiling Joe comes in and he said, I'm here to fix your heater. I said, come again? He said, your heater, I'm here to fix it. I said, I have no idea what you just said, but if you can fix my heater, it'd be great. So he came in and he opened up the heater, he looked at it and he went, I see what your problem is here. This is the worst I've ever seen. Look at that, your putz polar circuit over there, it's completely corroded away, and the masturbator aid over here, it's just not masturbating up here. You're looking at an entirely new unit here, son. You're gonna have to replace this whole goddamn thing. You're looking at about $3,500, $4,000. I said, really? I got blankets, I really don't mind. So he said, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna go, I think I got myself a new putz polar circuit at home. I'll bring it on in here and I'll get me a little bit of heat going here, but you're gonna have to replace this thing. So he said, I'll be back tomorrow. That was the last I saw him. With the temperature dropping down further and further and frost forming on the inside of the window, I called up the home warranty company. I said, okay, we're going to play a different game now. This game is called Uncle Kage Will Fuck You Up. Can I say that? It's 9:30 at night. You put me on late at night, this is what you get, you bastard. I said, put me on. I said, actually, if there is anybody under 18 in the audience, please make noise, say something, and I'll be good on this. Uh-oh. Anyway. So I said to him, you know what? I'm going to hire my own guy, and he's going to come out here, and he's going to fix the heat. And as for old Smiling Joe, I want you to deliver a message to him. The message is, I do not want to see him on my property ever again. As a matter of fact, if I clap eyes on him in any circumstance outside of here, I will not be responsible for what happens. Because I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. They said, we'll deliver the message, and I said, good. So I called up, Mr. Heaterman. Mr. Heaterman came out, and he opened it up, and he said, wow, I don't got any idea what old Smiling Joe was talking about. The putz polar circuit, it's pulling right there. Your masturbator aid over here, it's just bumping. I don't see any problem with that. Matter of fact, this unit looks like it's only about a year old. I said, okay, so what's the problem? He said, well, you got no heat. Smiling Joe came up with. I said, so we're beginning to understand each other. Now you kind of realize why I asked you to come out and why there's frost on the inside of my window. So can you explain why I have no heat? And he said, well, come on over here, let me show you something. See, the way this air thing works is you got this hot water coil up here, right? There's hot water going through that coil, and the air is being blown up across that hot water coil, and then the air gets hot and it comes out. I said, oh great, lesson in thermodynamics. I wish I was a scientist. Great, so can you tell me why it's not hot? He said, well, those coils aren't hot. I said, oh, we're getting somewhere. Can you fix it? He said, nope. Why not? Look at me, I'm old and frail. It's so cold. There's frost in my windows. No one ever comes to visit me. I'm like one of those stories you see in the news when they find the body 16 years later. I said, well, now, don't cry there, son. Now, I really would like to help you, but I can't. And I said, can you tell me why, Second Amendment? He said, well, those pipes, that's pipes with water in them. You need a plumber. So I called up the plumber triplets. I called them up and they were there lickety split. The next day in comes Billy Bob, Bobby Bob, and Cletus. They came on there and they said, everything with the problem in there, that circulator pump in there, the problem cavitated because you ain't got no air bubble in there. The problem is we got an air bubble in there, the problem then you got no cavitation, there's no water goes circulating around here. They'll give that $75. Okay, so you can fix it, right? They said, well, yeah, we just did. So, what, by talking about it? Then they got the idea. So what they did was they said, okay, what we got to empty all the water out of the system and put new water in. Because that old water, that's just old, you know. You don't want no old water in there. It's past its expiration date or something. You know, kind of getting stale. You know, it tastes a little gritty. They put some brand new water in there. And I'll be damned, I had heat after that. For about a month. Then, I noticed when the thermostat come on, it made a little click-click noise. Even the fan wasn't coming on. So, I called up Mr. Heaterman. And I said, Mr. Heaterman, could you come back out here and maybe have a look, and since you did so good last time? So he came out, he took the front off, and he said, oh, I see your problem. I said, what is it this time? He said, you probably want to take a look at this. The way you get the water out is there's a little valve up here, and you crank it open, and the water flows all out, and then you crank it closed, and the water doesn't flow out. Cranking it closed was apparently not on the agenda when Billy Bob, Bobby Bob, and Cletus were there. Because there was water trickling out of the thing. And, well, that water had to go somewhere. Well, underneath that, there is the fan. Anybody who's familiar with these things, they call it a squirrel cage fan. It's like a big squirrel cage, a big rotating thing like this. Well, it was filled up to the brim with water. And I'm sure for a while it must have looked like an old Mississippi powder wheeler. But then that's when the electric motor finally said, oh, there's water. I love this man. So I actually had to help him haul this thing out. There's about 2.5 gallons of water, and we dumped it out. And, well, he got it fixed, and I said, you know, I'm just having a little trouble with why the plumbing triplets didn't close that valve. And he said, what, Billy Bob, Bobby Bob, and Cletus, was it? I said, funny you should mention that. I said, oh yeah, those boys always forgetting something. But I had my heat. And as far as I know, I had air conditioning through the summer. Of course, I ain't been home for a few days, so we will see when I get home. Last thing I want is another flood. I had one of those. But that was kind of my introduction to North Carolina. Now, yes, the one person from North Carolina agrees. Now, many of you know that apart from wine, specifically German wine, specifically German wine from the Mosel Valley, specifically German wine from the Mosel Valley no more than 3 years, specifically Riesling from the German Mosel Valley no more than 3 years, etc., etc. Whereas that's my favorite. My second favorite is Japanese sake. So, there are some furries down there. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of furries down there. The Triangle Area Furs, they call themselves. Triangle Furs. When they found out Uncle Kage was coming down, they was like, "Oh boy, Uncle Kage is coming down. Uncle Kage is moving to the Triangle. Are you going to start a convention down there?" I said, "Fuck no." One's enough, believe me. By the way, if you want me to stop doing that, just say something, okay? Until somebody stops me, I'm just going to keep going. Believe no line. Well, these young fellows, they're very, very nice. They said, "We know where there's a sake bar." I said, "Politically correct, we ain't." So they said, "There's a sake bar. We're going to take you there. It'll be great because you like sake and they got sake." I said, "Oh, this is going to be wonderful. Take me to a sake bar. This is going to be great." So they took me there. North Carolina culture. North Carolina culture shock. Because we walked in, the waiter came up, and I said, oh boy, I'm all excited. And he sat me down and I said, "What kind of sake do you have?" And with a really big smile, he said, "We have hot and cold." I kind of looked over at the boys. No, let me say it a little more slowly. What type of sake do you, what brewery, what prefecture? And he stared at me, and he said, "I'll go get the menu." And I said, "Yeah, you do that." And I looked over at the boys, and they didn't look at me. So we got to talking, and the waiter brought over the menu. There were exactly 4 sakes on the menu. 3 of them were bottom shelf rot gut California sakes. And one of them was kind of bottom shelf, passable, get drunk on a Saturday night Japanese sakes. That was their ultra premium, high class, whoa, that was their good stuff. I said, "All right, bring me the good stuff, okay?" So
I've never drank.
I got to talking once again with the fellas. And when you get talking, you're paying attention, you don't really see what's going on in your periphery. In my periphery, I saw, the waiter came by and I saw a glass get put down, and I saw a bottle produced in preparation for pouring, and I turned and I looked and I said, "Stop. What's that?" Because protruding from the glass into which he was about to pour my sake was unmistakably a cucumber. Yeah. And I stared at it. It's like, okay, where's the hidden camera? This must be a joke. Does anybody else see it? Am I hallucinating? Do I have the DTs? I said to the guy, "What's that?" And he stared at me incredulously and he said, "Why, it's a cucumber." I said, "Oh, thank God. I thought it was a puppy." How amazing. It's great that we're on the same wavelength here. We really clicked, you and I. What the hell is a cucumber doing in my glass? And he said, "Didn't you want it?" I said, "Oh, okay. Okay, Cletus, let's talk about this for a second, okay?" I want you to imagine something. Imagine that I walk in to the finest French restaurant in New York City, and I take off my tuxedo jacket and I say, "Oh, good afternoon, garçon." I looked over again at the boys. For the whole rest of the meal, they didn't look at me. Now, I forgave them. They're good fellas. They meant well. But I'm still looking in that part of North Carolina for where I can get some decent sake. I'm well cared for right now because the Japanese delegation at Anticon saw to it that I'm not lacking for some time. And thanks to them for that. That's why I like the Japanese folks so much. They bring me sake. And I think it's probably the reason why I so adore the Germans, because they turned me on to the wines of the Mosel Valley. So, that's good music for this. How many people have been to Eurofurence? Yeah, the guy in the front row has got his hand up. That's their chairman. Who has got the greatest name ever in furry fandom? This guy's parents predicted where he would be, his position. Sitting in the front row, ladies and gentlemen, may I present Mr. Sven Take It Off. The first thing Sven did, he had me as a guest at Eurofurence 12 years ago, something hideous like that. The first thing he did when he greeted me was he rolled in a keg of wine. I never knew wine came in a keg. And the thing was, you know, I could barely finish it. If I remember, it was that evening that by the end of the night, I was forgetting how to speak English. I slipped into French and couldn't remember what the words were supposed to be. Funny thing is, the French people could understand me. It was the next year at Eurofurence that they gave me another keg of wine. I was able to finish that one. And well, when you drink that much wine, especially German wine, it does something to your judgment. They had a glass about the size of this entire container. And that evening, after that keg of wine, I thought it would be a good idea to fill that with equal parts red wine, Jägermeister, and absinthe.
Oh my God.
The next morning, I woke up dead. The next thing I remember is that I was in a wooden box on a ship being sent back to the States. That's actually not true, that's close to it. Now, the Germans, you think, would know that Uncle Kage occasionally likes to drink wine. Especially at Eurofurence, where I can get this easier than I can get water. This is €4. A bottle of water is €4.50. I'm not paid a lot, so I have to economize. So we're talking breakfast, lunch, dinner, brushing my teeth, taking a shower, you name it, it's all this. So usually by about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm already done. But I wouldn't want to be dehydrated, so I just keep going. Germans are a very, very intelligent people, but every once in a while they still screw up royally. You just ask Poland about that. But anyway.
That hurts. I'm sorry.
I was enjoying my stay at Eurofurence. And it was, okay, I could remember how to speak English, but I was having trouble remembering walking. And I'm going through the lobby like they had lines. I'm like, okay, that's good. Yeah, okay. This will lead me to my room, I'm sure. It's going in that direction. And one of their senior people came up and said, "Oh, Uncle Kage, I want you to talk to someone. Talk? Wait a minute, I gotta bring this with me. Where is this guy? Where is he? Oh, the cute little guy. Hi. Dude! Oh, God! I love that mustache! That is so... It ain't as good as Hitler's, but dude!
Whoa!
I can have sex with that mustache! My German's not very good. But when the gentleman leaned to me and whispered, "Das ist der Bürgermeister von Magdeburg." German speakers out there, yes, this is the mayor of Magdeburg. I found out how to sober up very quickly. Really? Herr Bürgermeister, it's very good to meet you. Do you speak English? He said, "Nein." I said, "Good." I only told Sven about that just the other day. He's still recuperating.
I think that might be banned now.
What?
You're going to be banned for that now.
What, banned from your friends?
Yeah.
That's all right, I'll just sit outside and drink. See, I learned enough German, I don't need them anymore. I learned how to say Wein, Weißwein, mir Weißwein, Weißwein für mich, bitte, Weißwein jetzt, bitte, Weißwein jetzt, bitch! I really feel guilty because I'm sure that when I'm over there, it's the worst week for Sven. But fate makes sure that it comes back on me. Because remember old North Carolina? It was not too long ago that I had what I suspect I could call the worst week of my life. That drink at Eurofurnace with the absinthe notwithstanding. This is back in the springtime of this year. Thank you, flashback. It all started when I was introduced to one of Raleigh's finest. Finest what? I ain't gonna say. You see, having been to Germany as often as I have, I've gotten used to what they call the Autobahn. And there's no speed limits on that. Now, when you get to be my age, you tend to forget things. And, well, I forgot that there's speed limits. Now, I still say this was entrapment. It was a motorcycle cop. I'm looking for a big Dodge Charger with lights on it. And this guy comes in and pull over. So he pulled me over. No, he wasn't Asian, no. Smoking the band music here, that's me. So, he said, "Do you know how fast you were going?" And I said, "Are we talking exactly how fast or a rough ballpark?" And he said, "Let's just put it this way. Do you realize that you were driving relatively fast?" And I said, "Well, apparently not fast enough to outrun you." Near as I can tell, this was the wrong thing to say. Because he handed me a $200 ticket. Ooh. Ow. I see that. Handed me a $200 ticket. That kind of hurt, but I was expecting, back in the fall, a very, very substantial tax refund. Because, you know, I had moved in a new job and everything, and I'd done a quick back-of-the-envelope calculation. I thought I was getting back a very tidy lump sum of money. So that $200, okay, that's going to bite into it, but I'm still going to have enough money to buy all the wine I want at Eurofurnace. It was shortly after that when I got to thinking about Eurofurnace. I thought, ooh, you know, they got this thing with our immigration called global entry. Basically, you fill out an application that says, I am neither one, an Arab, two, a terrorist. And you send them $100, and they send you a little certificate that says, certified not a terrorist. And it allows you to bypass a lot of the security coming back into the country. Well, I wanted that, and apparently all I had to do was give them my passport number and tell them my address. Because no Arab terrorist anywhere is going to have an address in this country. He's going to put down an address in Beirut, and then they'll catch him. And then be like, damn it! So I got on my passport, okay, here's my passport number, tappity, 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 here's my address, oh, $100, okay, all right, we'll use the direct debit from the bank account, which is already hurting $200, all right, we'll get another 100. And I sent that off. And about 3 days later or so, I got an email from them saying, okay, we have conditionally approved your application. We just have to have a face-to-face interview. Well, face-to-face interview, now this is getting serious. And they said, make sure you bring your passport. That's not a problem, it's what's here? Under, what the hell? It was here 3 days ago, I know. And I'm looking all around, picking stuff up on the desk, shuffling through the papers, starting to get rather nervous. I practically dismantled the desk. I pulled it away from the wall. I looked behind it, was looking down underneath everything, looking under the carpet, trying not to look at the wastebasket, which is sitting right here, underneath the little area where I put the passport. And after about 2 whole days, I finally had to admit, having turned my place completely upside down, it's gone. Well, if I don't get this global entry thing and I don't have this face-to-face meeting with my passport, I'll have wasted another $100. So I went to the post office and I said, I need a new passport. And the lady said, well, you've got to call this number and make an appointment. Okay. Bureaucracy, I'm not unaccustomed to that, because I've got English ancestry. So, what? Yeah, but you know how the English are about bureaucracy. I'm trying to be like homie, yo, my brother with you here. It's just not like, yes, yo, fisticuffs. Anyway. So I called this telephone number, and I got a recording saying, hello, please leave your name and phone number and we'll call you back. Okay, they must be out to lunch. So I called the number, and I left my name and number, and by the end of the day, I still hadn't called back. And the next morning, they hadn't called back, so I drove by the post office. And I said to the lady, they didn't call back. She said, oh, it can take up to a week. I said, wait a minute. It can take up to a week to get an appointment to come and see you, which I had just done. And she said, yeah. And I burst into tears. And I said, but I could be having this interview with the global entry people, and I need the passport. What am I going to do? Because I already wasted my $100, and I don't want to get your help, please. So she said, well, I've got a little bit of time this morning. If you can get me your passport information, I'm going to need your birth certificate, I'm going to need your driver's license and all this stuff. If you can get that to me like in the next 10 minutes, I can fit you in. So I said, great. Hopped in my car, went tearing down the road exactly 35 miles an hour. Got my birth certificate, got all my stuff together, went back, and I handed it to her, and I said, and here is my birth certificate. And she looked at me and she said, oh, that's no good. What? Well, what? No, here, look at it. She said, yes, I know, we can't use that. I said, well, I can prove I was born. Look, see, solid, right, I am here. You know, I've got 23 chromosomes from each parent. In honest, I'm not going to show them to you, but because I have to pull down my genes, but that's a science story. Sorry. Anyway, so I burst into tears again and I said, what do you mean it's not good? I'm telling you, I'm born. Apparently, in the state of Pennsylvania in the 1960s, they didn't think it was a necessary piece of information to put down the parents' names on the birth certificate. And apparently, you need to have that today. They want to make sure mom's name was not Akbar or something like that. So I said, what am I supposed to do? What am I can't get another birth certificate in the next 10 minutes. And she said, do you have an old passport? Oh, yes I do. That ancient passport with the picture that makes me look like I'm 11 years old? Yeah, I got that one. So I went dashing back home at exactly 35 miles an hour. Now, I had only just moved. And you know how it is when you just move, you still have like 75 boxes still packed? Yeah. They weren't packed after the next 10 minutes. They just all got unpacked in the middle of the living room floor. And the old passport dropped down the last box on top of the pile. So I reached up, grabbed it, handed it again, 35 miles an hour, back to the post office. And I gave it to her. And she said, okay, we can process it. With the rush fees and everything, that'll be $195. Really? She said, well, yeah, you need a rush, don't you? And I said, well, can you just kind of gently hurry it along? She said, no, it'll have to be $195, son, unless you want to make an appointment on the phone. I said, no, ma'am, no, ma'am. So I paid her the $195. Okay, so I'm down 200, I'm down 100, I'm down 195. This is kind of starting to hurt, but I got a big tax return coming. Okay, at least I got that. So I had my face-to-face interview, and I walked into the place with my brand new passport. The guy came in, he had this clipboard, and he looked at me, and he checked the box, not Arab, and handed me my global entry card. Great, wonderful. When I get back from Eurofurence, I'll be able to just walk through just covered with wine bottles and no one's going to ask me any questions. And I got home that very afternoon. And, well, there was an envelope from my accountant. Real big, thick envelope. And I said, oh boy, this is what I've been waiting for, all the paperwork. Well, Mom and Dad sent me to school for chemistry, not for mathematics. I'd apparently forgot to carry a zero or didn't integrate the area under the curve or something like that. I didn't actually have a big tax return coming. It was more like I owed the government $3,000. And I'm looking at this letter in shock and horror, and it says at the bottom, please remit $3,000 plus to the government. You also owe us $150 for doing your taxes. P.S. Why exactly did you send us your passport? So, when I go to Eurofurence this year, I'm not going to have any money to buy wine. I'm looking at you, Sven. I'm sure he will help. You know, a lot of you know that I tend to fly a lot. Not myself, but I mean an airplane. Then again, I fly very, very much, mostly for furry conventions. You know, work, they never send me anywhere cool. Furry conventions, they send me all sorts of cool places. So I tend to build up a lot of frequent flyer miles, and that gives me that seat up front, you know, the airplane seat that looks like this, the one where you sit down and you're like, ah, yeah. And the thing is, you're up front, and all the people boarding, they get to walk by. There is that unspoken rule that you're not supposed to look them in the eye. Yeah, not me. I'm a big dick. I'm like, but I have found a much greater joy than flying in first class. And that is giving that seat to somebody who deserves it more than I do. I tried very, very hard when I got that first class upgrade. When I get to the airport, I look for a US soldier in uniform. And I tell them, I don't know what the hell you've been through this week, but whatever it was, you probably deserve that seat more than me. Because inevitably, the flight attendant will find out what I did, and she will come back from first class to my seat with that lovely bottle of expensive first class wine, and she'll pour it for me. Everybody wins. Well, on a recent trip, and it finally occurred to me, this trip was when I was coming back from Midwest Fur Fest this past year. Midwest Fur Fest, they like to hold their convention in Chicago in November. And, well, sometimes it gets a little weathery there, if you know what I mean. And when I was coming back from Midwest Fur Fest, I got myself to the airport, and the thing is, with that first class and all those miles and everything, I also get a club membership, the executive club, and they had this there too. So I try very, very hard to make sure that it doesn't go to waste before I get on the plane. And usually when I get on the plane, the flight attendants will know I'm coming from about 30 feet off. And I'll get on the plane and I'll walk up to them and I got it covered, I'll walk up and say, hi, I got a medical condition. I'm an alcoholic. I am in grave danger of becoming sober by the time we land. And I'm counting on you to make sure that doesn't happen. Right here. And they're usually good about it. Well, on this particular trip, I was pre-gaming in the club, you might say. And there was a quiet little corner. Because I always seek out the quiet little corner. Nobody else is there, I'm all by myself. And I set up my little laptop there, and I'm sitting down and I'm looking at, you know, pictures, sending mom an email and everything, telling Sven I'm gonna need wine, getting all ready. And while I was sitting there, that guy came in. You know the one, the guy who's got his cell phone here, and apparently the cell phone speaker is not really working too well, or maybe he's hard of hearing because he sat down and immediately said blah 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 into the cell phone. Now, there's various things you can do. You can scowl at him. You can give him that angry look. You can sigh. You know, try to indicate your displeasure. Sometimes that doesn't work. That's when you have to get creative. Here's what I suggest. It's what I did that night. If you have your laptop, turn the speaker up all the way. Go to YouTube and search for the words sweet transvestite. And start blasting that as loud as you can, because the guy on the other end will hear that. Funny thing was, this guy started giving me the look. He's growling at me. So I got up, started grooving with it. I'm just a sweet transvestite. Transylvania. And he got up and went away. I got what I wanted. So I finished pre-gaming. And when I got up to stumble my way to my plane, I was going by, and you know sometimes when you drink, your eyes get a little bleary, right? And you have trouble seeing. And I went by the little display, and I'm looking at my flight, I'm like, oh look, it's going to Cancun. That says cancel. That's not good. I gotta get back to work. Let me go talk to the lady over here. I went back to the lady and I said, my flight's been Cancuned. What do I do? She said, you want to go to Raleigh? I said, I did kind of have my heart set on it. It's rather why I'm here. You know. Oh, you know, now let's go to Cancun instead. Let's just do that. So, no, I couldn't go there. So, well, she said, okay, your flight cannot take off because apparently there's bad weather here in Chicago. And I said, well, that kind of goes without saying. It's sort of like saying, hi, this is New York City, it's dirty. You know? I can say that, all right? So I said, well, what am I going to do? I need to get back there. And she said, well, we can reroute you. I said, now wait. My flight to Raleigh can't take off because of bad weather, but a flight going somewhere else can take off? And she said, that's what it says here. I said, well, it's going south. You know, they don't deal well with snow in the south. Okay, if it's what I have to do, because I am not staying overnight here. It's just out of the question. So where am I being rerouted through? And she said, we can reroute you through Newark, New Jersey. I said, get me a hotel. Anybody here from Newark? Thank God. I am not saying that it's a filthy, hellish cesspool. Yeah, I am. But I'm from Philly, I'm allowed. So I said, okay, what did I do to you? Why are you doing this to me? And she said, well, you only have to be in Newark for 3 hours. I said, oh, that's like saying I only have to be in solitary confinement for 6 months. It'll pass. All right, give me the flight to Newark, you witch. I got no problem. So apparently, the flight to Newark, they're going this way instead of this way, and it was a very narrow storm. So we flew to Newark, and I sat down in the club. Now, I was already, there, but I had 3 hours. 1, 2, 3, okay. So, every 10 minutes I kept looking up at that little display to make sure it still said Raleigh on time. And finally, when it was getting ready, I picked up my bag and I dragged it off. And just right then and there, we're back to Cancun. I'm like, okay, this is no longer funny. So I went to the guy at the counter. And I said, hi, and he went, oh, I'm sorry. I said, I got a problem. My flight is Cancun. What am I going to do? And he said, okay, let's see. This, by the way, was Monday, and I had to be back to work Tuesday in the morning. And he looked and he said, nothing going out tonight. And I said, why? I mean, what's the problem? He said, it's because of weather. And I said, I left that back in Chicago. He said, it says weather. And there's a big picture window. And I looked at it, and I'm seeing stars and a beautiful silvery moon. And I said, I failed to see the weather. What weather are they seeing? And he said, I don't know what to tell you, sir. It says right here, your flight is canceled due to weather. And I said, okay. Let me walk you through this, okay? Let me walk you through this. You see that sky? Do you notice that sky is devoid of clouds? It is devoid of snow. It is devoid of precipitation of any sort. He looked at the computer and he said, it's also devoid of airplanes. I had to give him that one. I said, so what are my choices? He said, well, the next flight I can put you on is going to leave at 7:30 a.m. I said, oh God. He said, Thursday. No. And I said, I am not staying in this filthy cesspool of a city any longer than I have to. What is it going to take for me to get out here in the morning? And he looked at his thing and he said, well, I can get you on at least 3 other flights, except none of them go to Raleigh. And so that sort of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? He said, it'll get you out of Newark. I said, deal. I wound up the next morning taking a train to Philadelphia and going from Philadelphia back to Raleigh. That was an interesting circumstance. It was kind of good to see Philadelphia again, though. You know, I do miss it in a way. Kind of the way you miss a really good case of herpes. Okay. Philadelphia is also kind of a filthy cesspool, but it's my filthy cesspool, right? And that's where I was born. That's where I grew up. Does it show? What the hell time is it? I keep losing track. Oh, don't got too much more time. What? 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Okay, 7 minutes. What can I say in 7 minutes? Oh, I'll tell them the story. How's that?
I don't know. You have to tell the story.
I can tell them a recent story. I can tell them something happened at Anthrocon. I think I want that. You guys know who Jim Cummings is? Yeah. Arguably the 21st century middle blind. He was our guest of honor this year. Now, we bring our guests of honor in big stretch limousines because Uncle Kage likes to impress them. Right? We want to impress them. So, the deal that the limousine driver gets is, okay, when you're 10 minutes out with my guest of honor, I want you to call me so I can go down there and I can be all impressive and I can go, yes, I'm Dr. Conway, I'm your host for the weekend here. Thank you very much for coming and let this gentleman show you up to your room. If you need anything, you can just call me. Jim's flight was not getting in until about 12:10 a.m. But I'm a dedicated man, so I stayed up, I waited. And some very, very good friends waited in the lobby with me. And somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 o'clock in the morning, remember I'm old, I got a phone call on my little smarty phone down here. Gentleman saying, yeah, according to the GPS, I'm about 10 minutes out. And I said, that's great, I'll meet you at the corner. Sorry? Yeah. So I went out, and I was waiting, and waiting a good half hour. And I started to get very nervous, and the phone rang again. And I picked it up, and it was the driver who said, yeah, I think they gave me the wrong address. And I said, dude, it's the convention center. It's a giant white building on the river. Keep driving until the front tires are wet. You won't be able to miss it. And he said, it's a 1000 Penn Avenue, right? I said, yes, that's 1000 Penn Avenue. And there was a pause. He said, oh, I see what the problem is. They gave me the wrong zip code. I said, dude, where the hell are you? He said, oh, I'm up in Wilkinsburg. Now, anybody who doesn't know the anatomy of Pittsburgh, Wilkinsburg is where the doctor puts the gloved finger. 1000 Penn Avenue in Wilkinsburg is a burned-out crack house. That's where he took Jim Cummings, our luminary guest of honor. Now, I found out later from Jim, that Jim had dozed off, and when he woke up, the limousine was parked under an iron bridge, with the driver looking around saying, this can't be right. This ain't the West End, they ain't fooling me. And I told the guy, look, just get him here. Here's the zip code. I also found out later that the driver couldn't figure out how to use the GPS. Jim had to take the GPS and plug in the address and read the directions off to the man through the little window in the back. And according to Jim, it's like, okay, you're going to come to a light, you're going to turn left. Yeah, I got it. Which way am I turning again? As we were approaching 2 o'clock in the morning, the limousine finally pulled in front of the West End. Those of you who know the layout of the West End know there's a little island in front. Big Blue Fox caught this on video. It was grand. The limousine pulled in, came around the bend, bumped its rear tire up on the curb, and then BAM! Back down. He also caught Uncle Kage shouting, motherfucker! The limousine stopped, and the driver, if I can call him that, got out. You see, usually I'm paying for a chauffeur. This man looked like an auto mechanic. He had on a gray, short-sleeved shirt, unbuttoned, untucked with pit stains. And I didn't even look at him. And I just went and I opened the back door. And I was afraid that Mr. Cummings would be upset. Well, fortunately, he was distracted by the hypnotic swaying of an electrical panel hanging by a wire in front of his eyes. And I helped him out of the limousine. And I said, Mr. Cummings, I'm very pleased you're here. I'm Sam Cummings, your host. I'm so sorry! Oh my God, I'm sorry! And you wonder why I look the way I do. Here's a secret for you. I'm 23 years old.
Oh, jeez.
I'll tell you one more thing in the time I got left, and I hope I don't go over too far. Very, very recently, the world lost a remarkable man. A gentleman that I met a number of years ago, a very, very old fellow. His name was Paul Gordon. He was a staff sergeant in World War II. As a matter of fact, he was a ball turret gunner in a B-17. I had met him in an air show. He was wearing a cap that said XPOW, Stalag 17B, Krems, Austria. And I was like, hello. I wanted to meet this man. And I asked him, would you tell me your story? And he put his hands in his pockets and said, well, yeah, there's not really much to tell. When you're down in the ball turret, you're the last guy to find out anything because nobody really talks to you down there. But I figured about the time that the plane was upside down and the tail fell off, it might be time to go. I was hooked right then. Paul started telling his story. And as he told it, a crowd started to form, getting bigger and bigger, surrounding this bent little old man, just telling about his experience. And they were craning their necks trying to hear, and they were jostling against me, and I thought, oh my God, I just met the Uncle Kage of the 1940s. This is so But that's hubris, I'm sorry, that's very conceited. I had to find this man. I actually stalked him, you might say. I was attending the air show with Gideon. A lot of you know Gideon. He's an artist. He draws things. Anyway, really draws them. So Gideon and I were talking about this, and we said, this guy never finished the story. We gotta hear the rest of it. So we tracked him down, and we contacted him and said, very sheepishly, can we come out and hear the rest of the story? Well, he was all for it, and he became a very good friend to both of us. I learned quite a lot. Not just about history, not just about World War II, not just about the experiences of a man, we don't want to spill that, the experiences of a man who underwent what can only be described as the nightmare of being a prisoner of war in a foreign country in a time of deprivation, and came out with his sense of humor intact. But what else he taught me, I didn't realize this until his recent passing when I reflected on it. When Paul told his story, at no time did he ever speak ill of his German captors. As a matter of fact, he always went out of his way to say nice things about him. One of the prison camp guards he described as a likable fellow. He had a detailed description in a little book that he wrote that described the 5 men who did not make it out of that B-17 when it landed. How the bodies were taken from the wreckage, how they were laid out in the morgue, they were identified, and then in great detail it described how the coffins were constructed, wreaths were placed upon them, a military band was ordered, the military band marched them to the grave sites that were dug by this and that guy. A salute was fired as they were lowered down, and these hymns were sung and these prayers were read. This was a translation of a German communique. It was the German Luftwaffe that buried these men with full military honors. They don't teach you that in history class. What Paul taught me was that even in the worst circumstances, we can still manage to see the good in the people around us who are just as much victims of the happenstance of the times as we ourselves are. He was a great man, and I loved him dearly. And I traveled up to Pennsylvania, and Gideon went with me, and we attended his funeral. His widow asked me if I would say a few words, and I said, well, I don't know, I'm not very good at that. But I did. I said pretty much what I just said to you tonight. And after the service, there was a memory book there. And Gideon and I went through, and we're looking at pictures of Paul. This was a man who made friends with and corresponded with the German Luftwaffe pilot who shot him down, as well as the family in France that had rescued him from the field, bleeding and dying. And we're looking through all these pictures and memories, and I turned one page and I stopped. And I said, Gideon, didn't you draw that? And he looked. It was a picture of a wolf in a Luftwaffe uniform, a pencil sketch. And he said, yeah, that's mine. And on the next page was a fox in an RAF uniform. And I said, did you give these to him? And Gideon said, no, I never did. I said, where would he have gotten them? And Gideon said, the only place they've ever been published was on my webpage. Here's to you, Paul. God bless you, wherever you are.
Let's hear it for Uncle Kage.